Hey, it's JC1424 once again with another album review, and today we're going to be talking about Rise Against, my favorite band's 2025 album, Ricochet. This is the 10th studio album of their discography, leading you to believe it would be this perfect culmination of them honing their skills and creativity behind their craft after 25 years as a band. But to keep a long story short, it's been said by many Rise Against fans, this is basically the Saint Anger of their discography. Yes, the Metallica album where they were practically banging pots and pans. Let's jump right into this. Track 1, Nod, is the lead single, and it immediately throws us into a driving beat with overly crispy guitars. Like if you're cooking bacon, we're talking tree bark. And the lyricism is reflecting resent and restlessness from people born into a dysfunctional economy and society. The message is very direct. Something that I couldn't really say about the lead single from their previous album, which was a lot more vague. But all this is completely overshadowed by a heavy filter on the vocals. That of like a megaphone, which doesn't work very well in a music whenever it's all you're listening to. The chorus is anthemic and the bridge is soaring, but little of this matters as it takes effort to sit through. And this is the lead single. They promoted the album from the beginning with this sound.
And tell me, where does the time really go? Tell me, what is this moment we're all waiting for? The wasteland so barren, a dead zone where nothing can grow.
And then the second song is I Want It All. Not to be confused with the one by Queen. I can't imagine Rise Against covering that and not working whatsoever. But I'm one of few people who'd say this song works well because of its unique dynamic that we don't hear from Rise Against much at all. These angry vocals and a slamming instrumental in between, the layer of beautiful soaring guitar in the bridge. It's motivational and taunting for a theme while having this post-90s raw tone. And if it came out in the 90s, it probably would have been a big hit, but now the rock scene and music scene is kind of oversaturated, so stuff like this doesn't pop out and get people's attention. And although this song is vague, my perspective on it is that it intends to abominate censorship.
Don't you wanna play? Can't run if we never crawl. Bang away, get your head above.
Track 3, Ricochet. It's the title track, of course. All 3 of these songs were singles, by the way, promoting and fronting the album with variety. It's debatable if that was a good idea or not, considering how it turned out, but the entire theme is somber and apathetic here. This points out who's affected in our current political climate with their ideologies in ignorance falling back on others and themselves without even realizing that was possible. But the verses are dancey with an acoustic guitar and some distorted percussion, all of which grew on me after a few listens. And the composition, from what I can tell, is really Bruce Springsteen inspired. And I say that because I've heard their cover of The Ghost of Tom Joad on the B-Sides and Covers album from 2013. But I've also heard, a bunch of Springsteen songs whenever I was a kid on the radio. And all of this really falls into the chorus of Rise Against song here. But that in itself is not only mid, but so washed out sounding. I'll give them this. The bass sounds badass when it carries the chorus to the verse and then to the bridge. But I just wind up feeling kind of It's pretty good, I suppose. In the 4th song on this album, Damage Is Done, the lyrics express this anxious feeling and a decision to burn bridges after learned toxic behavior. The guitars and drums hit like rolling thunder, and it's more distinguishable as Rise Against than the previous couple songs that were for some reason used to promote the album. Despite the awful reverb drowning out Tim McElrath's voice, like usual on this record, I will say the chorus is decent. And then there's this double entendre of interlude roaring like fire with his scream beneath it to save it all.
Perfect as a crime, burning like a blister, spreading like a fire, like a
Song number 5 is Us Against the World. And my first impression when this one began was that, like, it's got these lazy ass vocals and a guitar tone that feels like a derpy, drunken mess. The chorus comes around and I hear multiple voices wailing in, and it might as well be the opposite of harmony. They're not even in sync or something. All the while the bass guitar is more prevalent than ever. But it's not actually doing anything interesting. And it's a shame it's musically a dud from my perspective, because it's a really comforting idea that they're writing about here. How victims of this rather rigged economy that we're in are not alone in that. They're all kind of in the same boat.
the gasoline on a kitchen fire. Well, it's a bad scene, but it's a good lie. It's us against the world. It's us against the world.
And then you've got track 6, Black Crown featuring Andy Hull from Manchester Orchestra. And this one cuts deep, expressing this cold, resentful feeling towards somebody or a group of people after everything that you might have said to them just fell on deaf ears. The chords throughout and the ambience in the verses reflect that darkness remarkably well. And the drums even lay another heavy impact compared to previous songs. Then Andy Hull comes in and kind of sounds like a weasel. And again, there's not much attempt for them to actually be in sync. The dissonant reverb causes their high voices to just clash, in my opinion, while also being drowned out in the mix. So that portion of the song disappoints me, but I do like this one.
Now weary of this black crown, growing heavy on our heads. Oh, the kingdom of the dead. And now you know what I've always known. I know.
Okay, finally! Track 7, Sink Like a Stone, is probably my favorite song on the album. The lead guitar decorates this aggressive rhythm, and it supports a really provocative theme. A warning to somebody who is losing a war within themselves that they are at risk of hurting others if they don't take care of their shit. And whenever they get to a point of no return, in this message, it is expressed with a powerful breakdown of that original cadence that the song began with. And the production does minimal damage here. It's almost always at its worst during the chorus. And only half the interludes truly suffer, but not this one. No!
Well, the world is a stage, every stage. What they say, will you carry the weight? Will you carry the weight?
And then you've got the 8th song on this album, 40 Days. And as unlistenable as this can be at times, it is an ambitious and intriguing piece of writing. I'll give them that. They're hunting some elixir of life, determined and ignoring the risk of drowning / dehydration. It's got this Western aesthetic that is similar to that of their Bob Dylan cover of The Ballad of Hollis Brown, which was also on that B-Sides and Covers album from 2013. And instead, it carries this really unhinged punk energy with the same vibe, though. And the breakdown in this song, I will say, is one of the most ecstatic and radical that they've ever done. The mix to this song just makes my head tilt.
Till you are very tired. 'Cause
got track 9, State of Emergency. This has got to be the worst song that they have ever put out. It is another one that could have been good. It's got this really fun, almost juvenile rhythm. You know, it's freaking dun 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 dun. I mean, that's so fucking cool. But the vocalists sloppily refraining whoa repeatedly is just rather awkward and out of place as it fades into the reverb each time, which caused them to just not even sound in tune because those sounds hit each other back. But man, when them guitar chords first come in, it is just a wall of absolute fucking noise. It is ear grating to me every time. And there's all sorts of spectacular percussion and tone transitions in the mid-sections of the song. And I'd argue this could be an iconic song for Rise Against. But it is botched by an asinine dynamic. So anyways, the 10th song is Gold Long Gone, and it is the only normal produced song on this album. But I will give them this though. This one and the previous song, they have really excelled at the texture of that acoustic guitar. This has a more traditional ballad approach than I've ever heard from Rise Against. Because they usually just do something basic, but this has the growing orchestration, guitar, bass drum, and piano all throughout. You're starting to think that they're taking inspiration from Nickelback, not just Bruce Springsteen or Bob Dylan. But I wouldn't simply reduce the vibe of this song to just sad. It is more apathetic and bitter towards capitalism, something they did kind of touch on earlier in the album. But this is the easiest hook to get into by a mile. But I don't mind it. His voice is beautiful and so comfy to sing along with. And people who don't like Nickelback are weird anyways.
How do we always act surprised when all our monsters come to life? Tell me what the hell is going on. We're digging in the mines for gold long gone.
Soldier is the 11th song of the album, and I will say this track listing is organized very well this time around. This one turns a feeling of defeat and anguish into having the strength to walk away. So it serves as a great sequel to Hero of War, if you take it literally. That was from their 2008 album, Appeal to Reason. But it also can be interpreted as one about normal human relationships. And so in that regard, it reminds me of Monarch from Nowhere Generation, their previous album. But man, the opening guitar tone and chords here mixed with the lead is so sweet. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Even the verses resonate so well. Then the chorus comes around like usual, and it is slightly out of balance. Then you got the protest-like screaming in the bridge that I can imagine working in some universe, just not this one. And then the album ends with track 12, Prize Fighter. Why was this a single? Why does it end the album? It's like the most forgettable song on here. Like, I was going as far to say that Soldier, the previous song, would have been a better conclusion to this album than this one. But it's got a great message, though. Don't get me wrong. It fights for a narrative that we all deserve: true life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it is significantly more listenable than Nod, the lead single that started this album. But the composition itself is just kind of quick and I like the song a lot, though. I am Rise Against, bitch, after all. But it's the kind you forget right after you listen to it. Anyhow, my final score for Rise Against 2025 album Ricochet is a 76%, which is a C-. That That is really, really close to a D. And it's worth mentioning that I listened to the song several times on my car stereo, my headphones, and my boombox. So I had a lot of time to let everything sink in. Most people, their first impression is way worse than that. I mean, mine was. I was going to call this an F or a D at best. But I mean, a lot of these songs, they do resonate with me a good bit after a while. Some, they never will. It has a more interesting writing style of songs than maybe the past 4 albums. You go back to Appeal to Reason, that's the last time I was really intrigued by what they were doing with the composition. But half of the listening experience here is thoroughly ruined. Like only 2 songs having a appropriate cohesive mix with Gold Long Gone and I Want It All. And I'm just speaking for myself with I Want It All, because the way that song is produced, like the rest of the album, it works for that song. But all I learned here is that award-winning producer, Catherine Marks, don't know what the fuck she's doing. And this album could use an immediate remaster. See you next time. That's that. And album review over.
Or a trophy on your shelf, 'cause I don't belong.